About 2,000 years ago, the slave philosopher Epictetus said, "Anyone who can make you angry becomes your master." This was not just a warning, it was the key to a truth. If your emotions can be easily provoked, control is not in your hands. The person who angers you rules you. The words that belittle you determine your direction. If a glance, a hint, a criticism can overturn your inner world, power is in someone else's hands, not yours. True power lies in mastering your emotions. To understand the weight of this statement, let me take you to 16th century Japan, a time filled with war and chaos. Please listen carefully to this story. Imagine a grand banquet attended by hundreds of nobles and samurai during Japan's most chaotic period. A powerful commander's rival stands up to humiliate him in front of everyone. His words are sharp, deliberate, chosen to break honor. He insults Tokugawa as a cowardly peasant for all to hear. The hall freezes. All eyes turn to Tokugawa. His men reach for their sword hilts. In that culture, such an insult had only one answer: blood. Everyone expects Tokugawa's single command to turn the banquet into a massacre. But do you know what Tokugawa did? Nothing. He slightly bowed his head, smiled, and did not rise from his seat. He didn't utter a single word. He looked into his rival's eyes, not with anger, but as if he knew a truth. That silence was sharper than any clashing sword in the hall. At that moment, his rival thought he had won. He was wrong. 10 years later, Tokugawa became the shogun who unified all of Japan. The man who insulted him that night, buried in history as a defeated, forgotten name. Tokugawa didn't win an argument that night. He refused to surrender his power. He conquered the impulse to react within himself, and that victory carried him to an empire. This story is not about 16th century Japan. It's about you, because you were born to master your emotions, not to be ruled by others' provocations. Yet every day something tests your patience. A snide criticism, a challenging look, words meant to hurt, or situations that seem designed just to drive you mad. Every time you react with anger, anxiety, or frustration, you fall into the same trap Tokugawa could have fallen into, and you hand over your power with your own hands. Now imagine that none of this can shake you. Imagine navigating any storm with the calm of someone who already knows they've won the battle before it begins. That was the power of the Stoics. Not hiding behind fake indifference, it was mastering your mind to the point of being unshakable against any provocation. Today I will show you how to gain Tokugawa's composure at that banquet, the attitude that commands respect and gives you complete control. Your first action is simple, right here, right now. Today, I choose to protect my power. Even if you've never commented before, do it now. Because when you learn to stay calm in chaos, not only your reactions change, your entire life begins to transform. And before we start, I kindly ask you to like this video, share it, and subscribe, so this message reaches more people seeking the same clarity. Now let's begin. Defend who you are under any circumstance. There is a power few possess but everyone respects, acting as if nothing, truly nothing, has the strength to destroy you. This is not ignoring reality, denying pain, or turning into a robot. On the contrary, it is deep awareness. It is the unshakable decision that no provocation, no injustice, no betrayal can steal your peace or divert you from the path you've chosen. What does this mean? You are the sole ruler of your inner world. No matter what happens outside, no matter what anyone says or does, only you can disturb your inner balance. The moment you choose not to, you attain true freedom. Think of the story of Prophet Joseph, one of the most striking examples of character strength in history, betrayed by his own brothers. Not just betrayed, he was thrown into a well and sold into slavery to strangers. Imagine people who grew up in the same house, ate from the same table, whom you trusted, condemning you to death. Yet the story doesn't end there. Joseph served his master with loyalty. He worked with honesty and excellence. And what happened? His master's wife falsely accused him. He was imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. Can you imagine? Twice betrayed, twice wronged, twice fallen. He had every reason to be filled with pain and anger, to scream that life is unfair, to rebel, saying, "I'm a good person. Why is this happening to me?" Everyone would understand. Everyone would find him justified. But do you know what Joseph did? The exact opposite. Even in that dark, cold cell, he stayed true to his values. He continued to do his work with excellence even under those narrow conditions. He interpreted the dreams of other prisoners, gave them hope. He never lost his character for a moment. And he quietly, patiently waited until the time came, because he knew, I must focus not on what I cannot control, but on the only thing I can, my response. He waited with the wisdom of someone who knew everything that happened had a reason. He was not spiritually broken. He was not filled with anger. His heart was not riddled with pride, revenge, or resentment. On the contrary, he was clear, calm, and wise. And because of this, he rose directly from prison to become the second most powerful man in the palace. When his brothers knelt before him one day, he forgave them, because his real victory had been won years earlier, inside that dungeon. This is the true art. To feel the wound but not allow the wound to control your response. This does not mean being stone-hearted. It does not mean becoming an emotionless machine. It does not mean you won't feel pain, disappointment, anger. You will feel them because you are human. But there is a vast difference between feeling and acting on that feeling. When you react impulsively, when you overflow with anger thinking, I must teach this person a lesson, what are you actually doing? You are handing the control of your life to those who least deserve it. That person's words, looks, actions determine your emotional state, your energy, your peace that day. Do you realize how dangerous this is? When you stay calm, when you take a deep breath and ask, is this worth my energy? You take the power back. And you don't do this to please others. You do it to protect your energy, your peace, your future. You don't feed unnecessary arguments, because most arguments lead nowhere. They only make both sides angry all day. You don't fall for provocation games, because provocateurs want exactly that, to drag you down to their level. And the moment you fall, you lose. You don't waste energy proving something, because those who know your worth don't need proof, and those who don't, no amount of proof will ever be enough. You focus on what matters, your character, your work, your purpose. What lifts you up is precisely this consistency while others play their games. While they try to pull you down, you rise higher, silently, determinedly, without stopping. Stoic philosophy. Calmness in the face of provocation is the greatest sign of an invincible soul. Marcus Aurelius said, if something disturbs you, the problem is not the thing, but your judgment about it, and you can erase this judgment now. What does he mean? This, the external world cannot hurt us. Our interpretation of it hurts us. No external factor can disturb a person who is complete unto themselves, because that person has built such a strong inner fortress that no stone thrown from outside can shake its walls. This is not arrogance. It is not pride. On the contrary, it is profound humility. You are not saying, I am bigger than what others say. You are saying, I am the owner of my values, and no one can take them from me. Next time someone tries to upset your balance, to anger you, to humiliate you, to provoke you, do this. Stop. Literally stop. Don't move. Don't say anything, just wait 1 second. Breathe. Take a deep, long breath. Feel your chest expand. Feel the air fill your lungs. This simple action calms your nervous system and shifts you from fight or flight to think and decide mode. Notice what you feel. I'm angry right now. There's a fire inside me. I want to shout at the other person to do the same to them. Name it. Don't ignore it. But don't let it rule you either. Choose not to act based on that emotion. Here lies the real power. You feel the emotion, but you don't turn it into action. Like a surfboard watching a wave. The wave moves you, but it doesn't sink you. Most of the time, you'll see that a response given in the heat of the moment would only feed the other person's ego, because that's exactly what they want. To anger you, to upset your balance, and you don't give them that pleasure. Remember, you don't have to show everything you feel. Your inner world is not a place open to the public, especially not to those trying to hurt or manipulate you. Silence is often more powerful than any words. Have you noticed how shocked the person becomes when you give them no response? Because they expected a reaction, and you didn't give it. This leaves them helpless. They thought they had taken control from you, but control never left you. But be careful. This is not suppressing anger and bottling it up. That is poison. You need to find another way. Process your emotions wisely. Turn anger, frustration, pain into actions that strengthen you. Exercise, write, dive into a project, chase a purpose. Transform the negative energy others try to use against you into fuel for your growth. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What a powerful statement. The greatest revenge against those who try to hurt you is to become a better person than them. Calmer, more focused, more purposeful. Here's the greatest secret. When you show self-control, life realizes it can entrust you with more responsibility, more influence, more opportunity. Because people, consciously or unconsciously, do not trust emotionally unstable people with big things. But when they observe you staying calm in crisis, resilient against provocation, keeping control, they give you more. Because those who don't let anger rule them are ready to wield power without destroying themselves. History is full of those who burn to ashes with their anger. But the same history is also full of those who won with patience, reason, self-control. And it is the second group that endures. Next time you're provoked, remember Prophet Joseph. He didn't scream his name to appeal. He didn't try to take revenge on his brothers. He didn't make a scene saying injustice was done. He kept his focus. He did his work to the level of excellence, and he let his character speak for itself. That's what took him from prison to palace. Not his anger, not his revenge. His quiet, determined, consistent character. And you can reach your own palace, but only if you stop handing over your peace to those trying to take it from you. True power is showing that what matters to you remains intact. Storms may blow, people may talk, the world may descend into chaos, but that center inside you, that essence, that soul remains fixed, unmoved. This is a victory that time can never take from you. Because even if you lose on the outside, a job, an opportunity, even someone you love, if you haven't lost yourself, you haven't really lost anything. But if you win on the outside, if the whole world is with you, yet you have lost yourself, you have truly lost everything. So make this a mission starting today. Today, nothing will divert me from who I am. No word, no look, no event. I am the master of my inner world, and I will not surrender this peace to anyone. Tell this to yourself every morning, in every moment of difficulty. And over time, you'll notice nothing shakes you anymore, because you have become unshakable. And this is the greatest gift the world can give you. Immunity to disappointment. No matter who you are or how prepared you are, there will be times when things don't go as planned. A failed plan, a lost opportunity, a promise not kept. This is where most people fall apart, as if a single setback defines their worth or seals their fate. But the system doesn't work that way. Disappointment is not a verdict, it is information. Data showing that something didn't work, not that you are inadequate. The problem is we've been trained to confuse outcomes with identity. I failed. Therefore, I am a failure. This is a poisonous link. It steals your motivation and traps you in a loop of self-criticism. Building immunity to disappointment starts with changing this perception. When something doesn't go as planned, repeat to yourself, "This is not a verdict, this is information." This simple sentence reprograms your response. Remember, your job is not to punish yourself, it is to learn. Think of the greatest inventors, athletes, and leaders in history. They all failed more times than they succeeded. The difference was, they didn't fall into this trap. They analyzed, they corrected course, they tried again. Each failure was not proof that it was time to quit. It was just another piece of the puzzle. Stoicism, external events are neutral. The meaning we give them is what matters. If you choose to see disappointment as a teacher, it ceases to be an enemy. This doesn't mean you won't feel frustration, sadness, or anger, but instead of being trapped by these emotions, you use them as a signal to act and learn. The faster you move from emotional shock to analysis, the less you suffer, and the stronger you become. Make it a habit. When something goes wrong, ask yourself, what was different from what I expected? What can I improve that is within my control? What will I do differently next time? Answering these 3 questions turns a blow into a lesson, and a lesson into a strategy. This is the difference between those who recover and those who sink. Most disappointment comes from expecting the world to behave as you want, but life does not exist to meet your expectations. Accepting this radically reduces the likelihood of disappointment. Think of your mind as armor. Every disappointment is a hammer blow forging that armor. At first it hurts, but each time you choose to learn instead of complain, you make your armor stronger. Over time, your tolerance increases. You reach a point where a fall no longer knocks you down. It simply alerts you to the next step. Remember, disappointment is not an end. It is a filter. If you fell today, get up, learn the lesson, and move on. Because real defeat is not failing. It is deciding that trying again is not worth it. Just because something went wrong doesn't change your worth. What changes, if you choose to learn, is your experience, your perspective, and your strength. And that is your advantage. Every overcome disappointment makes you more resilient, wiser, and much harder to stop. He who learns to bend never breaks. Life will throw uncontrollable crises at you, and in those moments your response will decide whether you emerge stronger or break apart. Many people believe strength lies in hardening, in resisting at all costs, like a solid wall. But rigidity eventually collapses. True strength lies in learning to bend without breaking, like bamboo. Think of the mighty, solid, supposedly indestructible oak tree. When the wind blows with extreme force, its rigidity breaks it from the roots. Now think of bamboo. The wind blows, pushes, bends it. But when the crisis passes, it returns to its original position, intact. This is the strength that keeps you standing in the toughest moments, adapting without losing your essence. Flexibility is not weakness. Adaptation means finding ways forward, changing your strategy without betraying your values, accepting change without losing your core principles. Emotional rigidity is a ticking bomb. The more you cling to everything being as you want, the more tension builds. And when that pressure explodes, it comes out as anger, anxiety, frustration, even illness. Bamboo releases that pressure. It knows that part of survival is bending at certain points. In Stoicism, strength is not about blindly resisting, it is about flowing with the inevitable while preserving virtue and inner peace. When you face a problem, breathe and ask yourself, what can I control and what must I accept? By letting go of what is outside your control, you avoid burnout and free your energy to focus on what truly matters. Being like bamboo gives you an advantage. Crises that destroy others become transformative for you. Of course you feel the impact, but you don't let it break you. You adjust course, change angle, and when the storm passes, you are still standing. Flexibility also accelerates learning. The rigid person believes they already know everything and insists on what doesn't work. The flexible person listens, observes, adapts, and tries something new. This gives them a reaction speed no rigid system can ever have. Apply this mindset. When something doesn't go as expected, instead of pushing harder in the same direction, take a step back and look for another path. Sometimes the direct road is closed, but there is a side path to the same goal, and only those willing to move can see it. Bamboo bends but keeps its roots firm. That's what you must be. Flexible in form, unbreakable in principles. Nothing should take away your integrity, but nothing should prevent you from adjusting your method to reach your goal. Over time, you'll notice, this flexibility not only reduces pain, it makes you stronger than any rigid stance. Because while others try to resist the inevitable and break, you move forward with less wear, more peace, and greater clarity. Life will not make things easy, but you can choose how you deal with them. If you choose to be like bamboo, every crisis will be another proof that your essential core remains solid, even when everything around you changes. Rigidity may look like strength, But true strength belongs to those who know how to bend without ever breaking. Every difficulty is a workout for your inner strength. Every small annoyance you face is a disguised opportunity. You don't realize it because your mind is programmed to react, complain, and be dragged by little things. But if you change your perspective, every discomfort turns into a training ground for your emotional strength. Traffic when you're in a hurry, people cutting in line, a sarcastic comment for no reason. All the things that normally drain your energy can strengthen you if you choose. The calm needed to face a big crisis doesn't appear out of nowhere. It is forged through repetitions in small things, until self-control becomes automatic. Most people waste these workouts. They see discomfort and react. They lose energy and let a small detail ruin their whole day. But every time you do that, you've dropped the weight without completing the rep. If you want real emotional strength, you have to lift the weight. And these small annoyances are the weights that make you more resilient. Next time something small bothers you, don't treat it as a problem. Stop. Feel exactly what's happening in your body. Tension in the jaw, heat in the chest, racing thoughts. Notice it but don't react. Remember, this is not an attack. This is a training session. In Stoicism, even the most trivial difficulties can shape your character if you face them with intention. And this mindset is powerful, because life doesn't warn you when a big challenge is coming. If you haven't practiced calm in small things, maintaining it in big moments is almost impossible. It's like trying to lift 100 kilos without ever lifting 10 kilos. Patience, control, calm, these are muscles. They atrophy without training. Your advantage. Training is free and available everywhere. The supermarket queue becomes a patience test. A neighbor's noise becomes a concentration test. Traffic delay becomes a challenge to find solutions instead of wasting energy complaining. The point is not to silently endure everything. It is to use every irritation as exercise, training your breath, your inner dialogue, and your ability to focus on what matters. At first, your instinct will be to react as usual, to get angry, protest, look for someone to blame. But with practice, your transition from annoyance to self-control will get faster. One day, you'll find yourself responding calmly before the irritation even escalates, because your brain will be programmed to do it. In a world where almost everyone reacts without thinking, this is a superpower. Think about it. If you can't handle a reckless driver in traffic, how will you handle a major betrayal? If you lose your calm over a 5-minute wait, how will you endure a year chasing a tough goal? Life gives you small tests to prepare you. It's up to you to use them or waste them. Starting today, turn every annoyance into a training session, no matter how small or silly it seems. Whenever you feel like getting angry, smile inside and think, "Thank you for this free practice." And continue your day with the satisfaction of having strengthened your most important muscle, self-control. Emotional strength is born not in comfort, but in discomfort. And if every small discomfort is another rep in your workout, you'll be far more ready than you think when the big test comes. Fear and shame. Fear and shame are invisible chains. You don't see them, but they condition every step you take. They make you doubt yourself, pull back before trying, and hide who you are for fear of judgment. The most dangerous part, you usually don't even question their origin. You just assume that's how you are, but you're not. Fear and shame are learned emotions, usually built on old beliefs that have nothing to do with your current reality. The first step to freeing yourself is not to run away, but to face them. Calmly observe how these emotions manifest in your body, what thoughts accompany them, and when they appear. You may discover that the fear paralyzing you comes from a single event years ago, or that the shame you carry doesn't even belong to you. When you ignore or suppress them, you give them more power. When you notice them without judgment, they lose their power. Practice self-observation. Next time fear arises in the face of a challenge, instead of fighting it, stop and say, "I see you. I know you're here, but I won't let you stop me." When shame forces you to lower your head, stop and remember, "I am human, and I don't need to be perfect to be brave." In Stoicism, courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing not to be ruled by emotions despite knowing them. Developing self-compassion is essential in this process. This is not making excuses for yourself. It is treating yourself with the same understanding you would show a loved friend. If a friend felt what you feel, you would encourage them, not punish them. Do the same for yourself. When you put this into practice, you gain a rare freedom. The courage to act despite fear, to appear as you are despite the risk of judgment. You realize that hard times are not walls, but doors to a stronger and more authentic you. Fear ceases to be an enemy and becomes a signpost showing your next area of growth. Shame ceases to be a burden and becomes a reminder of your vulnerability. And vulnerability is not weakness, it is part of your humanity. This doesn't mean they will disappear. It means they won't be in the driver's seat even when they're present. Your heart may race and your palms may sweat, yet you can still move forward, speak, decide, and act. And every time you do, their power decreases. Now try it. Think of something you've been avoiding because of fear or shame. Speaking in public, saying what you really think, starting a project, approaching someone. Do it this week. Not because you feel ready, but precisely because you don't. Show yourself that you can act even without waiting for those feelings to vanish. Every conscious confrontation with what you fear rewrites your inner story. You teach your mind that stepping out of your comfort zone won't kill you, and putting yourself out there won't diminish your worth. In fear and shame, there is not only freedom, there is your true potential. As long as you live conditioned by them, you will never know how far you can go. Look them in the eye, acknowledge their presence, and still take that step. When you do, you will feel something money cannot buy. The certainty that nothing, inside or outside, has the power to stop you. You are not your results. If you measure your worth by results, you will live on an emotional roller coaster. When you win, you're filled with pride. When you fail, you sink into doubt and self-criticism. And this fluctuation never ends, because results are inherently unstable. One day at the top, the next at the bottom. But your worth should not fluctuate with them. Tying your self-respect to achievements is like building a house on sand. Sooner or later, it collapses. Results depend on countless variables outside your control. Markets, others' opinions, overnight external changes. If your identity is tied to them, any wind can knock you over. When you separate your worth from results, you reclaim power. You begin to measure life not by success, but by your consistency with your principles, the quality of your effort, the honesty of your actions. This is not settling for less. It is freeing yourself from the paralyzing fear of failure, because you are no longer defined by victory or defeat, but by how you play the game. Next time you finish a project, don't ask, did I win or lose? Ask, did I stay true to my values? Did I give my best? Did I conduct the process with honesty? If the answer is yes, then even if the external result isn't what you expected, you have won. In Stoicism, personal worth lies in virtue, not in success. Your true sphere of influence is the effort you put in and the quality of your intention. The rest is external and should not determine your self-respect. Use this mindset as a shield against criticism and judgment. When you know your worth is not tied to others' approval, their opinions lose the power to destroy you. Good results make you happy, but not arrogant. Criticism makes you think, but not paralyzed. The change is profound. You no longer need to win to feel good about yourself. You start feeling good because you acted in line with what you believe. And this is an unbreakable foundation, because it is completely under your control. Apply this every day. If you exercise, measure it not just by kilos lost, but by the discipline of keeping the promise to yourself. If you present an offer and it's rejected, judge it not just by yes or no, but by the dedication and courage with which you prepared it. Over time, this mindset builds unshakable resilience. You can lose a deal, a job, an opportunity, and still stand, because you understand they don't reduce your worth or your ability to try again. And most powerfully, when your self-respect is not tied to results, you dare more. You no longer play to protect your ego, but to learn, try, and grow. Victory becomes a bonus, defeat a lesson. This way you build an inner strength that depends on nothing external. Because results change, but character and values are the foundation that keeps you standing. When you separate your worth from results, you free yourself from being a slave to approval, fear of failure, and external pressure. You live with more peace, more freedom, and more courage to move forward. Defend your peace, not your ego. Most of the battles you fight are for your ego, not your peace. Even if you deny it, you know it's true. You argue to clarify things. You respond so as not to appear weak. You spend hours trying to make others think about you the way you want. But at what cost? Every moment you defend your pride instead of your energy. You waste your vital force on the most trivial things. Pride wants approval. It wants recognition, applause. Wisdom wants peace. You don't have to win every argument or correct every misunderstanding. Truth doesn't need a desperate lawyer. If who you are depends on others' beliefs, you are not free. And if you are not free, any harsh word, any misinterpreted gesture can steal your peace. Protecting your energy means stopping meaningless conflict. It means realizing that not every provocation deserves a response, not every rumor needs clarification, and not everyone has to understand your perspective. Sometimes silence is your best defense. Not because you lack arguments, but because you have priorities. Next time you feel the urge to teach someone a lesson, ask yourself, does this bring me closer to peace or just feed my ego? Will winning this argument give me anything real or just temporary satisfaction? 9 times out of 10, the answer will be, it's not worth it. In Stoicism, true power lies in choosing what deserves your response. What you don't pay attention to cannot control your life. Don't confuse this with submission. Not responding is not giving up. It is self-mastery. Those who don't need to fight to prove their worth are stronger than those who shout to be recognized. Calmness in the face of provocation is the mark of true self-control. So practice in small things. When someone criticizes you for no reason, take a breath and move on. When your words are twisted, don't try to catch everyone one by one to correct them. When a comment hurts your pride, weigh whether it really needs energy or whether silence is the best option. Every time you refrain from feeding a meaningless battle, you save energy for what matters: your goals, your health, the people who truly value your essence. When pride runs your life, you become a slave to others' opinions. Any provocation can manipulate you like a puppet, but when you decide to protect your energy, you become untouchable. They can no longer control you with a comment. They can no longer steal your peace so easily. This doesn't mean never defending yourself. It means choosing wisely when to defend. Some battles are necessary, most are not. The hard part is recognizing the difference and having the discipline to let go of the ones that aren't worth it. Over time, disturbing your peace becomes harder. What others think no longer keeps you awake. Because you know your worth is not up for negotiation. That's the goal. Living in a way that your energy is reserved not for things that tear down, but for things that build. Don't let your ego be the captain of your ship. Let your consciousness decide where to sail. In the end, approval is forgotten, but your peace remains. And when you protect your energy above your ego, you have already won the most important battle, the battle of not losing yourself. When the mind leads, everything transforms. Your mind must be stronger than your body, more solid than your emotions. What can transform your life is not your body or momentary feelings, but the clarity, judgment, and decision-making power of your mind. Deep down, you already know what you need to do. Take action, work, take care of your health. Make those important decisions. But most of the time you don't, because you allow your body and impulses to control you. You decide to read for half an hour, but you postpone because you're tired. In those moments, ask yourself, will I allow this to control me? Every time you surrender to impulsive tides, the smaller momentary feelings overpower the greater conscious mind. This leads to frustration, regret, and the feeling of wasting your life. You are not using your potential, but you have a choice. The secret is to strengthen the mind so it does not bow to passing desires or emotional fluctuations. When the mind commands, you move with clarity, purpose, and direction. And when you move like this, You do what is good for yourself and others. This is the foundation of true happiness, living according to what is right, not what is easy. Putting the mind first changes everything. It's like stepping out of a dark tunnel into light. With just a few days of discipline and clarity, you feel as if you have rebuilt yourself from the inside over years. You've reached the end of this video. But this is not a finish line. It is a starting point. Your real journey begins after this screen closes and you return to the noise of the real world, to those inevitable tests, because there is always a distance between knowing and being. Today you took the first step to close that distance, to make what you learned part of your identity. Every lesson you learned today was not just a piece of information, it was a brick in your inner fortress. For the Stoics, this fortress is the unshakable refuge in your mind that the chaos of the outside world, others' judgments, and life's inevitable blows can never penetrate. This is your domain of sovereignty. You began building this fortress by seeing others' provocations as traps and refusing to surrender your power. You laid the first foundations by preserving your dignity. You wove the walls by not letting disappointments destroy you, but turning them into information. And most importantly, by separating your worth from the unstable world of external results. You strengthened those walls by bending wisely instead of breaking with rigid resistance. You learned the wisdom of accepting the inevitable. You used small annoyances not as reasons to complain, but as workouts that increase your mental strength, forging your patience anew every day. You broke the old chains of fear and shame that held you captive and weighed down your steps. You no longer allowed ego to enter your fortress and drag you into unnecessary wars where you sacrifice your peace to protect your pride. And finally, you placed your mind, that clear and principled intellect, at the top of this great structure as the sole commander of the fortress. Now this is your refuge, your command center. Now you own this fortress. But building a fortress is only half the battle. True mastery is protecting it every day, because life will continue to test these walls every day. Old habits will push at the door. An unexpected crisis will test the strength of your walls. In a weak moment, those old reactions, anger, anxiety, frustration, will try to sneak in. Victory is not building the fortress once, but keeping it standing every day with conscious effort. The ultimate purpose here is not just to take shelter in a fortress, but also to become a beacon. Life is often a dark and stormy sea. The waves, crises, the wind, provocations, and the fog, uncertainty never stop. Most people are leaves drifting on this sea. They are tossed wherever the waves hit. They complain about their fate, curse the wind. But you are not a leaf. You are a lighthouse firmly built on its own foundations in the middle of that sea. A lighthouse's job is not to calm the sea. That is not in its control. A lighthouse does not fight the waves or try to stop the wind. A lighthouse has one single duty. No matter how fierce the storm, to stand unshaken in the middle of that chaos and keep its light burning. That is your duty too. Your duty is not to change the world. Your duty is not to control how others treat you. Your duty is, no matter how great the chaos around you, to stand firm in that inner fortress and keep burning the light of your character, your virtue, your purpose, that inner fire. Let the waves crash against your walls. Let the wind howl. Your light does not depend on them. Those who see that light will respect you. Those who need that light will find their way inspired by your calm. But most importantly, that light will remind you every day, every morning, every difficult moment, who you are and what you value. These lessons are over. Everything that needed to be said has been said. Now go and be that lighthouse. As Seneca said, fire tests gold, adversity tests brave men. Because every difficulty you face is an opportunity to prove how brightly you can burn that lighthouse's light. Thank you for watching.